Say a special good morning to those of you listening to Classic Radio 105.5, 105.9. Those of you who are viewing us via GBN TV, whether it's Channel 7, Channel 11, Channel 20. Good morning. What about our social media platforms? Whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels, good morning and welcome. Those of you also via GBN's webpage, gbn.gd. Good morning and welcome. It's Wednesday, the 31st of July, and it's to the point. I'm your host, GT. Good morning to you once again. Let me say good morning to my guest. First, we have, of course, Dr. Wesley. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome. How are you this morning?
Hey, good morning, GT, and good morning to your listeners. I'm doing well, and it's a privilege for me to be in Grenada, the Spice Isle of the Caribbean. So, yes, I'm doing well.
All right. Well, I can actually see you doing well.
Yeah.
We'll get some more details here. Let's introduce my second guest this morning, and he's via the Zoom platform. Let's say good morning to you, sir. That's, of course, Mr. Nicolas Paul. Sorry for stuttering on your name there, sir. Anyway, good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for welcome.
How are you doing this morning, sir?
Absolutely wonderful. On a little vacation, but I thought it was very important that I join in on this discussion.
Thank you so much, and we'll certainly, of course, be with you shortly. Let's get the conversation rolling up this morning. Dr. of course, Wesley, you're representing CXC, of course, Caribbean, I'm assuming, here in this morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself, sir, before we get into the conversation. Let me just get a little bit of depth of the conversation with you first and foremost.
Okay, thank you very much again. Good to see you, Paul. Well, I'm from Jamaica. You would recognize that.
I have gasped early in the conversation.
Yes, I'm from Jamaica, but I now reside in Barbados. Okay. That's where the headquarters of the Caribbean Examination Council is located. In fact, we have two locations, headquarters in Barbados and the Western office in Jamaica, headed by Dr. Eduardo Ali, a Trinidadian who resides in Jamaica. I'm an engineer. I'm also an educator, and now in executive management. My passion for regional development is quite strong. I'm really an avid supporter of regional integration and development, and so this particular job gives me the opportunity to ensure that I impact the human resource development of the region and to enhance the region's economic competitiveness. So that's in a nutshell.
In a nutshell.
Of course,
yeah. I like that shortened version of it. I sort of like that shortened version of it. Give us a bit of a synopsis of your being in Grenada right now.
Well, I'm in Grenada, and let me say up front, GT, because we're really with the people, government and people of Grenada, with the recent passing of Beryl, and particularly what happened in the northern side in Carriacou and Petit-Martinique, right? Yes. The heavy damage that took place there. We are in sympathy and empathize with the people and give them our support. We continue to ensure we do what is necessary for the people of Grenada. I must commend the government for the effort that they have made in the recovery, as well as the regional effort to support the rebuilding of Carriacou and Petit-Martinique from the CARICOM perspective. I'm here in Grenada particularly to engage with our stakeholders, but first I participated in the 47th Heads CARICOM meeting that ended yesterday, for which your Prime Minister, PM Mitchell, is now the chair and is leading on that. In fact, he presented a paper yesterday the day before, on digital infrastructure resilience for the Caribbean, and I really commended that effort and vision of his. I think that is consistent with where the Caribbean Examination Council wants to go. We are working on developing a digitally transformed enterprise that provides quality, relevant, and globally recognized educational services. And we are committed to working with him on that particular objective, because we are moving towards ensuring that our exams are also digital
Yes.
and benefiting from AI, but we can talk about that later on. But my main purpose here is to engage the stakeholders here in Grenada. I'll be engaging the Ministry of Education. I'll be engaging the teaching profession as well as the principals, teachers, and students who are critical stakeholders to advancing the objective of the Caribbean Examination Council. To some extent, we will also engage because we do have markers here. We do have our local registrar, Nicolas, who is tremendous in ensuring that CXC's work is executed efficiently within Grenada. There are others too, like Dr. Peters George and our former CEO, I think she's retired now, Miss, her name slipped me at this moment, but
it will come back.
Yes, it will come back. But
come back.
she has worked with the Caribbean Examination Council in ensuring that our services are executed efficiently within Grenada.
The engagement that you have spoken about a short while ago, how critical is that engagement?
Well, as you can see, over the years, there are several things happening with the Caribbean Examinations Council for which sometimes it is portrayed in the media in a particular way. And I think us having a direct engagement with our stakeholders will help to allay and to reassure them that CXC interest is about advancing the region and its human resource, and that is a collective responsibility. It's not just CXC, but working together with our key stakeholders like our teachers, principals, and educational officials in ensuring that this objective is achieved. And so this engagement is for persons to ask their own questions and seek their own clarification on matters of importance to them, but also give CXC an opportunity to outline our new strategic direction, the strategic things that we are doing to ensure that the region experience the best there is at the secondary education level of our education system.
All right. In reference to concerns of CXC over the years, there's been numerous conversations that always taken place and true as a concern. What are those critical concerns from CXC in general as you represent that you may like to see maybe rectified to a point?
Well, there are several challenges that we would experience as a region, given the fact that we are prone to natural disasters. Yes. And how do we respond quickly and efficiently? One of the concerns coming out of the pandemic of 2020, you know about the COVID situation. Yes, and how that would have caused several dislocations within the education system, and our response in trying to ensure that not only students would have gotten an opportunity to still acquire their education, as well as the ability to matriculate into the university of their choice. And so our continued effort is how do we continue to create a mechanism that will allow for examinations to be administered even with these level of dislocation, be it hurricane, pandemic, epidemic, whatever it is. How do we respond? And we would have created a modified approach that allows us to be as responsive and as efficient as possible with respect to the administration of examinations. There are some concerns surrounding SBA that since of late we are also concerned with the custody management and security of our examination papers, because as soon as there's a breach, we have to be in a position to respond quickly, but we want to prevent that from happening. And so in that regard, we would have been working and testing recently our hybrid system of examination administration, where students will now view their examination script or the paper itself on screen, but they will write their response in a booklet. Okay. So it's like it's a hybrid, part electronic, part manual, so that they can still be assured that their responses would have been captured in the right direction. So that is part of our response to trying to control the breach in our examinations, because for some jurisdiction the difficulty is, for example, in Jamaica and Guyana and other larger territories, the paper has to be delivered before the day of the exam. For some territories the paper can be delivered on the morning because the distance to travel and deliver those papers would be much smaller. So we have to find a way to minimize the chain of custody being outside of CXC's control for any particular period of time. And so when we go electronic, we will only release the code to access that exam on the morning of the exam, and students will still have the opportunity to write in a booklet the responses that they are viewing. We are using that particular modality, particularly in areas where it's high risk, right? But we are hoping that eventually we will move to full electronic testing. The other area of concern to us is that of SBAs, and our SBAs are administered and returned, because coming out of COVID, what we did, we would have required 100% submission of SBAs for us to be able to quality assure and ensure that grades and students should have done the work that they're doing. There are some challenges there, and one of the things that we are putting forward and we'll be talking to our stakeholders about is SBA is to be treated more of a formative assessment rather than a summative assessment. And when we talk about summative assessment, it's not a one times writing and submission. It's a process over a period of time where students would do part of the assignment, interact with their teachers, get information to improve, go do that work, and that continuous process of submission and feedback would allow them to develop as an individual. What we are finding is that in most cases some of these SBAs are done summatively at the end of the year, and that can create some challenges. Exactly. So those are some of the challenges that we are trying to overcome. We know the challenges with digital infrastructure and the availability of internet access right across the region, so we are also developing some modalities that will be offline and would facilitate students writing those examinations in the offline mode, and once you're finished then you get connected again to upload the examination. So we're working on several aspects of our operations to ensure that we still remain relevant to the people of the Caribbean.
Is there any worry in terms of the security aspect, especially when the confidentiality part of it also?
Yes.
Oh, in reference to that. What is it in reference to that for you? The security aspect of, the online feature of it, the confidentiality also, tell us about that.
Yes, so within the electronic space, we operate what we call a safe browser. So once you have initiated the examinations, if you try to go anywhere outside of that examination space, you'll get a screen that prompts to say, once you leave, this is the end of your examination. Please confirm that you are finished with your examination. Okay. So once that is done, you're locked out for good for that examination, and you would have ended your test. But the idea within that safe browser is that once you're working in that browser, you're not supposed to go and interact externally anywhere on that computer. So a condition that we have is that for every device that is used to facilitate electronic testing, the safe browser has to be downloaded, because you access the exam through that safe browser, and of course the code is delivered on the morning once you get in. Even though we facilitate bring your own device, it means the day before you have to take it to the school and have that safe browser installed on your machine, so that you are not allowed to enter or access any other website outside of the examination page.
The practice of the technological part put into it, the efficiency of it also.
Well, and perhaps I'm not quite sure Paul would have done any aspect of the electronic testing here in Grenada. And
I'm not sure Mr. Paul would like to chime in on that and probably get a bit of his take on that as we move through, especially with the efficiency of the electronic part of it. Mr. Paul, let's hear from you on that aspect.
Yes, good morning again. Actually, it's been...
We seem to having a little bit of problem with you there, Mr. Paul. Just give us a sec so we can probably have that rectified. I'm sure my technical person will probably come in and have that rectified first. I'm not sure we're not getting an audio feed that was going directly on there with Mr. Paul.
So if you want,
you could probably go ahead and see if we can have that.
Yes, but regionally, for those who have implemented electronic testing in certain subject area, understands the efficiency and security that comes along with that. Because for one, you don't have to print any paper.
Yes.
For two, you don't have to ship any paper. So the logistical management surrounding paper-based examinations would have been eliminated, and the efficiency in terms of the results being obtained much quicker is increased, because you don't have to scan any paper for it to go into a scanning system for it to be marked online.
Okay.
Right away, once you're finished, the result is already known, particularly on the MC paper. On the multiple choice paper 2, there's still some amount of efficiency there, because you don't have to collect all papers again and ship them to the location for them to be included. So a lot of efficiency gain and security would be recognized with the implementation of electronic testing.
All right. We drew for a break. Let's take a break. When we come back, we can have that bit of an issue sorted out with Mr. Paul, and we probably get him more into the conversation. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We will be right back after the break. Don't touch your dial.
We all got our families to protect, and it means that we got to protect our communities. Let's stop the gun violence. The amnesty expires on July 30th. The truth is, we all tend to suffer. No one gains, we all lose. The families are affected, churches are affected, communities are affected. Let us put on the guns and the weapons. Let us unite. Let us build a better Grenada. I am Dylan Felix, Barcelona Olympia 1992. Peace out.
The gun amnesty remains in effect until July 30th. A message from the Ministry of National Security.
As Grenada grapples with the devastation of Hurricane Beryl, Season 3 of GBN's Our Climate Reality program is focusing on the impact of climate change on small island developing states. Join us on GBN Television, K105 FM, and our Facebook page and YouTube channel for Season 3 of Our Climate Reality, Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Compliments, Grenada Paper Products, and Classic Lighting.
Fly the Jones Switch, it's Lava Man, it's all about Spice Up the Carnage Soca Mona competition. It starts on the 26th of July, it's going to go on to the 2nd of August, then the 9th for the finals. I will be the host, Fly the Jones Switch. Get there, see you there, be there, nothing but vibes. Real mashup, yeah? Mad.
Ship and Print, together with Concept Events, present Pre-Day, the biggest show in Grenada's Carnival. Wednesday, August 7th, Grenada National Stadium. Gates open at 9 p.m. Showtime 10 p.m. A celebration of the Jab, featuring the Minister of Jab, the Jab Boss, Talpri. I am the Jab Boss. Certain things I end. Also featuring guest performances by TNT's Road March King, Mikhail Tasia, Nadia Batson, and Sass. Cohen Dubois, Problem Child, Lil Rick,
Welcome back once again, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio, GBN TV. With me this morning, we have Dr. Wayne Wesley with us this morning, and also Mr. Nicolas Paul with us. And Mr. Paul, welcome back. How are you this morning? Once again, before the break, we were actually in a conversation, of course, with Mr. Wesley. We were actually speaking in reference to, the digital aspect of the CXC, and how is it, in response to it here in Grenada. Let's hear your take on that, sir.
Well, from the inception of online exams in 2017, when CXC introduced that, we were quick to get on that. in the early stages, there were some teething issues that we had, but we have a tremendous team of IT experts at the ministry, led by Mr. Kate Dikoto, and they really work very hard to ensure that the exams run relatively smoothly. I must say also that the government had the insight to invest in computers and also in the infrastructure, getting the internet access in all the schools. And that has been relatively stable from the inception. And to date, we've been doing all the paper one exams, with the exception of English and mathematics. We've been doing them online so far. This year was no exception, and that went relatively smoothly this year, with the exception of a few little issues that we had, but generally they were very smooth. So online exam, we understand that's the way that we'll be going, and we appreciate and accept that. And we'll be working together with CXC in order to ensure that we go 100% online whenever that time comes.
The compatibility issues that for students, we say, how was that, of course, looked into?
Well, the fact is, there were some from the older candidates who left school years ago and are coming back as private candidates. They were asking why wasn't that introduced while they were at school? Because there's the actual transition from the paper to the computer is relatively seamless. Most of the candidates, if not all, they really enjoy the electronic testing. The exams are usually done much quicker. The students are very, very comfortable with the modality.
My next question, of course, it seems to be of the challenges that is available right now. We know Hurricane Beryl just passed, the students in Carriacou and so forth. How are you going to handle CXC students, especially in Carriacou and Petit Martinique? Remember the Petit Martinique, the students from there may have to travel to Carriacou, of course, via the boat. And so how is that going to be, handled, especially for CXC 2025?
Well, I know the ministry, the team is actually already working on how to resolve issues putting into exams. The electronic exams actually were done on the Sister Isle as well, including Petit Martinique for the CPE exams this year. I'm not sure what progress has been made yet in terms of getting infrastructure back together, but the hope is that by exam time, which would be January and June next year, all systems would be back in place to ensure that exams are continue in the electronic mode.
All right. CXC in Grenada, over the years, and you mentioned a while ago, of course, we wish that the technology was available, especially in our time. For me, I would have been so happy for that. The progression of it from the paper now to the paperless factor of it. How do you see the future of students embracing that a whole lot now? Is it something you think that lots of students are happy to do? Of course, Dr. Wesley, of course. Let's hear from you.
Yes, the students are actually, they prefer the electronic mode of exams. If we look at our modern day students, from the time they get to toddlers, they're actually using those electronic devices. That is their space. So doing the exam where they are comfortable, they perform, they are a lot more relaxed in the exam because the modality is something that they are accustomed to. So we applaud that, and I think going forward, that is actually the way that we think that the exam should go.
All right. Let me ask Dr. Wesley this from this point. The future of CXC in Grenada and around the region, how do we foresee that, the future? Is it something that we're going to be constantly embracing in terms of moving forward in terms of the educational factors for individuals and so forth?
Yes, very important question there. The mission of CXC actually posits that we develop the human capital of the region through partnership for global competitiveness. And as far as the primary and secondary education system is concerned, CXC is an integral part of the regional fabric for education at those levels. And accordingly, the future is bright, and our involvement with the Caribbean education system will continue to be culturally relevant. And I think that's the aspect of the Caribbean Examinations Council operations that makes us a bit more important and integral to the social and economic fabric of the region, unlike GCE and Cambridge and examinations out of London in the past. CXC brings cultural relevance to the education being given to our students, our candidates right across the region. So our work here at the Caribbean Examination Council will continue to be leading the way for educational advancement within the region. We have embraced artificial intelligence. It's a critical component of our operations going forward. We would have been listening to the regional governments on their strategic development and national imperatives for climate change, agriculture, science and technology, STEM operations. And so we would have developed a series of what we call new generation subjects that is helping to advance those imperatives of regional governments across the region. Those imperatives would include like green engineering. You would have heard a little bit of excitement in the paper the other day about what we are doing with respect to agriculture, green engineering, and some technical areas. But I want to reassure the public that we continue to make those subjects available to the region in agriculture, green engineering, animation, digital skills. So the people of the region, and particularly here in Grenada, anybody wanting to get involved in animation and AI and information technology, environmental studies, anything to do with the performing arts, filmmaking, all those areas, we are facilitating program delivery in those areas. What we'll have to do, though, is to work collaboratively with the teachers' colleges, because in some areas we recognize that there are challenges in finding and appointing teachers in those areas, and so working with the teachers' colleges in terms of the areas that they would perhaps need to begin the recruitment and training of teachers to ensure that the school system would have access to these individuals. There are other things that we will be doing in that regard with respect to creating our own workshops, teacher training workshops to sort of build capacity in those areas. So a lot of things will have to come together. We are coming out of that media issue the other day with respect to the suspension of syllabuses. We're going to be working with the ministries of education across the region, working with their planning institute, because it is always good to say that these areas of economic development will occur, but I think for students to be interested, we will have to be able to market those areas a career path. So we're going to be working with them using labor market information to help point the way for students to see how they can self-actualize in these various disciplines: entrepreneurship, environmental science, digital animation, bioengineering, biotechnology, robotics, all those areas that are of interest to them. But we will have to work with the ministries right across the region to ensure that we give a clear career path for students to see themselves self-actualizing.
Support for CXC has always been a pivotal concern, especially for the Caribbean Council on Growth. The support. How has the support been, especially from regional governments and so forth? How has the support been?
The support has been, well, let me commend, for example, the government and people of Grenada. I think their support to the Caribbean Examination Council is one to be emulated by the rest of the region.
Happy to know that.
Yes,
happy to know that.
But generally, CXC was established under a shared collective responsibility for the regional good to be achieved. And in fact, what obtains in that situation is that the final price or cost of the subjects to students or candidates would be at significantly reduced cost because of the contributions from regional governments to ensure CXC continue to remain relevant and effective in delivering secondary education to students. So the regional government, yes, there are some challenges in some ways. As you all know, the governments across the region would be speaking to the economic challenges and the financial constraints, and we are working assiduously with them to ensure that we help to cushion as best as possible what needs to be done so that the region and over the years, even within these financial challenges and financial constraints that we experience, we have never allowed the region to have gone without any kind of certification or access to examinations that would allow our students to elevate their own potential within the region. So yes, I'm happy for the commitment of the regional governments to the Caribbean Examination Council. Grenada has just celebrated 50 years of existence. CXC has just celebrated 50. So we are together. We are growing and developing together.
All right. Tell me, the preparational aspect, we just go back a wee bit. The preparational aspect for examination so forth has always been that nervous thing you see with youngsters. CXC in general, has there ever been a plan that will make that preparational aspect for students wanting to do exams? How any consideration has been done to that?
Well, in the past, we would have operated what we call the learning hub, where students would have access to examination material and tips about
the past papers and so forth.
Right. That is no longer there. We're working on something different in that regard. But certainly, what we tend to do towards the facilitation of students being adequately prepared for exam is to have what we call teacher-oriented training and workshop, where our officers would actually engage teachers in the new aspect of the syllabus, what is expected of students, and we'll use that to help facilitate. We'll have also been engaged with other providers to ensure study guides and learning materials are available for students to utilize. Our past papers are available online as well for students to have access to through this what we call CXC online shop. Yes. Or area for where students, a section for students to access learning resources. So we would have been doing a lot of that. Sometimes during the exam period, we would have seminars online on our social media platform, because that's where students are.
Yes.
We would seek to engage them during the period for examination as to the do's and don'ts, what they need to do to get themselves ready.
Okay. I want to throw the question also out to Mr. Paul on that also. In terms of in Grenada, you being the registrar here in Grenada, tell us what some of the concerns that you have noticed that may have been happening in terms of the preparational part for students, especially when it comes to examinations.
But one of the major issues that we observe, I'm not sure, I think it has to be preparation, maybe readiness for exams. In the private, in where students are actually registered as private candidates, the actual percentage of absenteeism in that area is very, very high. There are lots of private lessons that have been given, private classes by private tutors. A lot of those are actually done in the St. George's area. What we were encouraging over the years is to have the schools set up extension schools where students in the areas can actually have access to educational material. Actually, they can do the classes there and be ready for the CXC exams in whichever year or whichever area they choose.
Okay, great. Of course, Doctor, let me just ask you this, because it's always seemed to be a concern of me and knowing of someone who goes through that particular aspect of their life, folks with sense of disability. CXC, in reference to them, what kind of preparation could be done, or what kind of assistance against of course, the council offers, especially youngsters with, that disability aspect of themselves? We know we have just gone into the digital realm of it, which can make a whole lot easier. But they are individuals who may not be able to have that capacity and want to further their education in some way or the other. How does CXC see that?
Well, persons with disability, they are very important to CXC and its operation. In fact, we have been facilitating their access to examination assessment over the years, and perhaps a lot of persons are not fully aware as to some of the things we are doing, and so let me try and provide a synopsis on some of the things.
Sure.
For example, our exams are in Braille.
Yeah.
So the visually impaired persons can participate in our examinations. Where there are attention deficit disorders that can be proven medically is in the case. We do provide extra time for persons to write those examinations. In fact, if persons are also challenged in reading and doing any particular such thing, we allow them to have a personal assistance with them in their examinations to read and provide guidance to them as they write their examinations. So we have a series of activities with the advent of AI technology now and us incorporating that with the computer digital assessment. We will have greater capacity and capability to treat with this particular cohort of students with disabilities. So we have been constantly looking at ways to ensure that we are inclusive in our assessment approach, and so persons with disability can be assured that we are taking the necessary steps to accommodate them. What I'd encourage, because a lot of parents perhaps are not aware, that once their student is recognized to have certain deficiency, even dyslexia and all those things, you can talk with your medical doctor for them to provide the requisite information. You write to CXC through your local registrars and ministries of education for us to be aware of the situation, and the requisite provision will be made for them depending on the severity and challenges that they experience.
A question I want to get into also, as you did mention it a bit, with the advent of the inclusion of AI right now in the world today, concerns in terms of how folks will be using it in terms of the examination process. It's like getting things done without them having to put their own efforts into it.
So as I mentioned earlier, CXC embraces the use of artificial intelligence to enhance the teaching, learning, and assessment processes. But we have to ensure that there are certain safeguards, and there are three particular areas that I would have been articulating about the use of AI. And the first of them is academic integrity, plagiarism, and persons recognizing copyrighted material and how you utilize that, and not to present work as their own. So academic integrity is going to be something critical for us to engage and educate our students on about the work that they produced. Secondly, we are concerned that you don't have what I call intellectual laziness. In other words, the cognitive development of our students are impacted if they're becoming over-reliant on AI to do the work that they're supposed to be doing. Because remember, what we really want is for students to develop the critical competencies for them to perform effectively in society. So critical thinking, innovation, problem solving are the critical competencies that we would want them to achieve. And so with the advent of AI, it means then we have to shift the balance and don't focus so much on content, but on competencies that students ought to demonstrate. And in that way, we will develop the kind of citizens we're looking forward to help drive innovation in the economy. So we have to move from content to competencies. And the third area, we'd want to ensure that in the utilization of AI, that the information that it has access to is information we consider that is verifiable, factual, and true. We know that AI has a way of hallucinating, and we have to guard against that. So students will have to be operating in that environment with the proper supervision from teachers who would perhaps have a greater appreciation for the accuracy of information being presented. So it's just that we will have to now rethink our assessment is being done, because you can no longer ask students to just regurgitate right information presented, but you want them now to interact with that information through critical thinking, problem solving, and communication.
All right, great. We drew for a break. Let's take when we come back. We continue with the conversation. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point here, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We will be right back after the break. Stay with us.
Show me your ID. You walk with your man, you walk with your woman. Party love. I come to party, we no shooting up nobody. Come to party, no violence in this country. You come to party, I want a peaceful party. We come to party, everybody feeling hot, hot, hot.
Hi, hello. I'm
super flying flint. And I got a message for everybody. The message is, let's create a safer community for all of us. Put down the guns and let us party.
The gun amnesty remains in effect until July 30th. A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Imagine for just $15, you can win free gate passes to any Spice Mass semi-final or final show or other top Carnival season shows of your choice. From now to August 10th, every time you spend $15 in Daily Cash 4, Daily Pick 3, or Playway in a single purchase, check your ticket to see if the words "You are a winner" are written on it. Follow the instructions and redeem your winning ticket at any authorized show of your choice. All you have to do is present your winning ticket at the gate of your show of your choice for scanning. But guess what? The more $15 you spend in daily games in a single purchase, the more chances you have to win free gate passes. Compliments the NLA. Over 400 free gate passes are up for winning instantly, Monday to Saturday. Secure yours now. Spice Mass is on, and the NLA grants you free access. Must be 18 or older to participate. Terms and conditions apply. NLA, proud platinum sponsor of Spice Mass, making your carnival dreams affordable.
Whoa, whoa. Rock the box, we say, yeah. GBN, we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box, we say. We'll be jamming here on a Thursday. It's a
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to The Point here, Classic Radio and GBN TV. It's To The Point. I'm your host, GT. With me this morning, and of course, my guest, Dr. Wayne Wesley, and also, of course, Mr. Nicolas Paul with us this morning also. Dr. Wesley, and of course, another question that came to mind, and a question I would like to ask. You know, lately we've been noticing, the factor where students are rolled through the system. For some reason, they especially at the secondary level, they're getting to the secondary school and they get to a point where they just do the examinations. I'm sure. Tell me from a CXC point of view how you feel about individuals. Sometimes you get the impression that students are a little bit unprepared. As much as maybe as the teachers may have put in a lot of effort. I'm not saying they didn't. Mm-hmm. But the unpreparedness sometimes you see in the final results. In terms of especially in serious subject matters that children are supposed to be, should have excelled in if the preparation part was done in the manner it did. Tell me a bit from CXC point of view on that.
That is of utmost importance to us, GT, at CXC. In fact, we are currently looking at the performance of the regional education system from 2018 to 2023 across 5 cognate areas of entrepreneurship, business, digital, mathematics, English, as well as the sciences. And of those cognate areas, when we look at the performance from 2018 to 2023, the best performing area is that of digital technology. And so when Paul spoke about students being very much engaged with IT, that is shown in our examinations. But, of all those 5 cognate areas, which area shows the weakest performance for those areas? Yeah? Mathematics. And that is of concern to us. We have never been able to go beyond 60% performance in mathematics,
and that's
right across the region.
Right
across the region. And that is of concern to us. In fact, literacy and numeracy is of utmost concern to us. And currently, we are devising a program at the Caribbean Examination Council to bring more emphasis on literacy and numeracy coming from primary to secondary secondary education system, because even as we talk about student advancing throughout the education system. One of the phenomena we have observed based on the statistics we are collecting across the region is that you have, if you have 1,000 students entering first form, by the time you get to second form, that's down to 800. By the time you get to third, it's down to 600. By the time you get to fourth, it's down to 500. And by the time you get to writing exit examinations, it's down to 300 thereabout. So we are losing. The attrition rate across the education system is quite concerning to us. And what this tells us is that there ought to be a greater focus. I know we want to allow our students to be very rounded at the primary and early secondary education of the education system, but I think we need to spend greater time ensuring that they are literate and numerate. They can communicate and they can calculate. And that is going to be important, because once students can communicate and calculate, literate and numerate, they can learn anything else.
So true.
The challenge is when we did even a further assessment with any 5 subjects, you get a large group of about 6% of the Caribbean people achieving that. When we say including maths and English, it's down to 4%. In other words, we're losing over 10,000 students annually that would be unable to access the jobs that they want, because if you don't have maths and English, you can't access the job that you want. Students who are unable to matriculate into universities because you don't have the maths and English. And I think that is an area that we really need to spend some time on to get our people literate and numerate, because on that foundation, you can learn anything else. And if we don't pay attention to that, the economic competitiveness that we are talking about in the region, you have to be able to communicate and calculate for innovation to take place, for innovation and creativity to take place. And so it is important that I think as a regional government, as regional, the regional education system need to now give keen attention to literacy and numeracy coming out of the primary and secondary, so more of our students can benefit from the education that we want. And who knows, we might be able to solve the social challenges we have with crime and the menace to society, because you would have a greater number of students feeling self-actualized.
All right. I understand that. So, let's take a call before we move on to that, because I know you've been having some engagement with, of course, with Grenadians and so forth too, on your visit here.
Yes.
We will speak of it. We just take a call or two and, of course, respond, and then we get back to that part of it. No. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Telesford, sir. Greetings, and greetings to your guests. Very interesting information coming through there this morning. Some of the statistics too that I'm hearing there and so on as relates to the education levels and so on. Stunning, aren't they? But as we work towards enhancing them, I do applaud the CXC, the commission or the division. But I'd like to make a very powerful observation, particularly to Dr. Wesley. Only a while ago he mentioned the importance of communication and the calculation, powerful things. These were, that's where the stress was in my time at school. Mr. Wesley, on various occasions, and I'm not doing this in a bit to ridicule, let me go a little faster. No, I'm just because it's a major problem and it disturbs me, so I have a right to talk about it. Many of your statements, Mr. Wesley, seemingly to speak of what happened, I know, happened, had happened, have happened in the past. You use the structure would have plus the past participle. Whereas words only belong to their context. Those statements are erroneous and even ridiculous. Because when you say you would have done something or something would have happened, you have to tag to it, but it didn't. That means that the structure would have plus the past participle only speaks of unreal and imaginary situations in the past. These things never happened. I urge you there, sir, to take a look at it. I repeat, it's not to ridicule, but I cannot speak to you personally, therefore I have to express it here. Kindly take a look at that structure, sir, and recognize, I trust that you recognize that it's being incorrectly used in a bid to correct it. Thank you very much, sir, for what it's worth. Mr. Telesford, back to you.
Have a good morning, sir. Thank you so much.
I understand what he's saying.
Anyway, let's focus a wee bit on the engagement part of it before we continue to our call factor this morning. The engagement. You said you went through numerous engagements while here, and some of them you may like to, of course, highlight this morning.
Yeah, the one I would love to highlight is my engagement with the CARICOM Youth Ambassador here from Grenada, who was at the CARICOM meeting yesterday, and he engaged me. His name is Joseph Andal.
Yeah.
He actually is doing an interesting thing with artificial intelligence. He has actually used ChatGPT to create a chatbot that can now generate lesson plans, and he has tied it to the CXC syllabuses and trying to get students and teachers engaged in a meaningful way with the technology to enhance the teaching, learning, and assessment process. And I was very impressed with him. I told him to we exchange contact to see how best we can perhaps utilize some of what he's doing. As I made mention earlier, how do we treat literacy and numeracy? Perhaps artificial intelligence can provide us with the ability to have targeted, deliberate intervention that will help students develop in the areas of weaknesses so we can have better performances in English and mathematics. So Mr. Andal there is doing some very good, a Grenadian, right? Doing some very good work with artificial intelligence.
All right. Moving forward into, of course, the years to come. CXC as a whole will, of course, be used as one of the pivotal role for individuals to get that moving forward for their personal lives. What more would you like to see, of course, regional countries, offer in terms of the overall development of the educational structure through CXC?
Well, so the challenge is multifaceted, right? One, we want to move with the technology, the digital infrastructure, but then governments and the powers that be will have to facilitate that, so that the school system can make the requisite transition into this new era of operation. I heard Mr. Paul made mention that government would have procured laptops and computers for students and equipping teachers. So there will have to be greater emphasis on facilitating that. I mentioned literacy and numeracy, and there will have to be some greater emphasis there across the region to ensure that students are equipped with the requisite skills to function in society. We will have to do a lot more with teacher preparation and education and providing the requisite resources for teachers to be able to do what they are required to do with our students. And so from that perspective, CX would want to work closely with the respective ministries of education and teachers and students to ensure that our education system remain relevant to the needs of the Caribbean people. I also would love to see a lot more coordination within the education, what I call the education ecosystem. So you have the examining body, you have the teachers' colleges, you have the universities, you have the ministries of education, you have private sector coming in to ensure that education is given the kind of resources needed for us to have the greater level of impact on the development of the human capital of the country. I firmly believe that education is the way that we would alleviate a lot of the social ills and challenges that we are facing, but it has to be done in such a way that all persons would have access.
All right, great. Let's take our final caller for the morning, and then we come back and get some closing contributions from you and, of course, Mr. Paul. Caller, good morning. You're welcome.
Greetings. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Let's hear your contribution.
And welcome to Grenada, Doc. Very good conversation, and you have said a lot of things that are good. Although there are many things also which can be challenged or to get better understanding. But because of time, let me just limit my calling to the program just to take issue, inverted commas, with the response that you gave to the first caller. I think you responded by saying that you don't understand the point or the message that the caller was making. And I'm a bit surprised. I want to know if the problem in you not understanding is because you were not hearing clearly what the caller was saying, or maybe, I don't want to say that you were just trying to dodge the issue, or maybe it shows or it proves exactly the point you were making in terms of the way we are changing our style of communication. The first caller seems to be someone who has been schooled with the English language years ago, and he seems to be a modern day person. And so the issue he was talking about was the use of the word would have, which has been repeatedly used by professionals like yourself within Grenada and even beyond the American station and other stations. And the caller was trying to make the point, how appropriate is this? And he would like for you and / the government, the policymakers, our educational professionals, CXC, if you can look at it. So I was just surprised, and I should say hurt, to know that the issue was just cut off short, that I don't understand what the caller was saying. So if you can just, if you don't even understand what I am saying, you can just forget it. But when you go home, just replay what was done this morning on this program and the particular issue raised by the caller, and see how you can formulate an article or a commentary or some statement on that particular issue, declaring a change of our grammar, declaring a change in the pathway in terms of mathematics and English language. Let us hear the position of CXC right now specifically on that particular issue. There are many others, but go back, replay the clip on the idea of using would and would not. And let me say here, you have articulated a lot of things, and I hope that you mean what you say, but even this AI, which our government's challenging to go through, will not bring success in our society educationally. But you have raised 3 or 4 points for caution, and I hope the emphasis will be on that. But again, our communication, our mathematical skills, all of this are changing because of this digital focus that we have. And we have to be very careful because it will impact not only within the educational realm, not only within the employment realm, but our social and civic way of living will change, and it will be for the worse. So thanks again, and I hope that my comment is taken by you in what I think it should be meant. All the best to Grenada, all the best to the Caribbean. CARICOM, we have a lot of work to do. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any response to the caller?
Well, I'll take the advice that I go back and listen to the use of the what we would have done and to see what the concern is really, because it would have been nice if the caller did say, is it in reference that CXC said it would have done something but didn't, or would have? I mean, I'm trying to still understand. So it's not a matter of being dismissive. So if the caller can call back and explain precisely what that is, I would appreciate. Sorry, you hung up before, I could engage him. But the concerns about communication and calculation with respect to students being able to benefit from what the economy has to offer are critical areas that we'll have to focus on. So I'm not in any means disregarding the concerns being raised about communication and calculation. I think if we are going to be effective in how students are able, you asked a question earlier, how students move through the education system is without any consideration for what they have achieved, but the fact that the system requires them to move from grade to grade. And the point I was making is that it is important that we give greater emphasis on literacy and numeracy so that students can, in fact, hone the skills required for them to function effectively in society. In fact, literacy and numeracy, those are the two foundational skills on which students will be able to learn anything else.
All right, great. Mr. Paul, any closing contribution from you before we get a closing from Dr. Wesley?
Yes, just as we move into the 2024-25 exam cycle, just making an appeal to candidates, especially private candidates, to prepare themselves and get ready for registration, which would begin sometime in September. And I'd just like to say thank you to Dr. Wesley for gracing us with your presence and the contribution that you have made to the program this morning. As a ministry, as the exam journey, we will continue to work with CXC to ensure that the exams are administered in the actual proper manner. So thank you, Dr. Wesley.
Thank you, sir. Thank you also. Dr. Wesley, closing contribution from you this morning.
Yes, I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank the many professionals who would have worked with CXC over the years, our markers, our examining committees, our reviewers and quality assurance individuals, persons from the Ministry of Education like Mr. Nicolas Paul and others who would have, Ms. Finley, who would have worked with us as well. Across the region, our teachers who would have made the work of CXC possible. I just want to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to them. Of course, the staff of the Caribbean Examination Council who are working tirelessly to ensure that the examination results are ready on an annual basis in August for students to be able to recognize and matriculate in their area and discipline for further studies. So thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wesley, and it's a pleasure to have you also. Best wishes for the rest of the day, sir.
Thank you very much.
And certainly hope you continue to enjoy your stay here, even though it's for business purposes, but hope you enjoy the rest of your stay in Grenada.
Always a pleasure being in the Spire side.
All right, man. Blessings as always. Hey, folks, that's how we take a wrap for this edition of To The Point. Join me again tomorrow, once the Almighty permits, for another edition. That's where we say goodbye.